Good morning, Australia, and welcome
And the
to
world.
and the world and the world. Forget about the rest of the world. Australia's where it's all happening. And welcome to Spirit Talk Australia Radio and your hosts for today, Anne Rekovich and Renata Daniel. And we have some very, very special guests with us this morning. Tonya and Joey Madia, all the way from America. And these two guys here are absolutely crazy and amazing with the amount of work that they do. We are extremely interested in all of their paranormal adventures, but they have so many different books and things that they have their hands in, literally. And we are going to bring them on and say hi, and let's talk to these gorgeous guys. Good morning, oh, good evening, good
Mo
evening.
evening.
Good evening, good morning to
Good
you.
morning, good evening.
And I love the way we have two parts of the world together right now. And we are able, through the magnificent magic of technology, to speak to you. So welcome,
It is
welcome.
amazing because
It
remember
is.
in our day, back in the dark ages, you'd have to ring up on it. Well, sometimes you'd have to book a call to overseas, and then if you got onto a call, it was a real delay.
I know.
It was almost like, "Hi, how are you?" Stop. And then you'd wait for the now it's just all instantaneous plus with video.
Oh no. I'm going back to the time when you used to tie a message to a
Pigeon. She's old.
and throw it out and wait.
Oh, hi Lisa from New York.
Hello, Lisa from New York.
Oh, we've got the Adelaide people on.
Hi, hi, and welcome, guys. We are thrilled to speak to you because your list of achievements and your list of what you are actually involved in at the moment is extraordinary. I thought we were busy. We've got nothing on you two. That is amazing. Absolutely amazing. So tell us a little bit about yourselves, Joey and Tonya. What are you doing? What have you been doing? How did you all get together? And no, it's too many questions.
Just tell us about yourself.
Yeah.
You start.
Okay. Well, I just want to start by saying how thrilled we are to be here with you, ladies.
Absolutely.
It's an honor for us as well. But I am a lifelong experiencer. I've been experiencing paranormal phenomenon, strange events, spirit people since I was very little, and pretty much every house I've ever lived in was haunted, and pretty much every place in the world really is haunted. We talk about this, so we'll get into this. I think the whole world is haunted. It's just that I notice it, and so many other people do. But and then Joey married me and started having these experiences with me as well. And we started, and of course, we'll talk more about this as we go. We began having experiences together, so we became paranormal investigators and have been so for about 10 years. We've written books about it. I've written a book about tuning into your intuitive abilities.
Mm.
And Joey can talk to you more. He does even more than I do. He's pretty amazing.
Well, I'm a storyteller by trade. I'm an actor, director, escape room designer, screenwriter. Love audio drama. We have our own podcast. So Tanya being a psychic medium and our 21-year-old daughter Jolie, who's a psychic medium, and I kind of felt like, ooh, what am I going to contribute to all of this? And it was really in story. And I started to look around, and not a lot of paranormal investigators. Yeah, they're great at interview, they're great at gathering data, but ghosts and spirits and entities have stories. And then when we get together with
Absolutely.
them, we
Yeah.
have this sort of unified story, and that's kind of taken us to where we are today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really cool because we believe very much about the storytelling part and about giving all of these beautiful souls an identity that people can relate to. So, yeah, absolutely. We're on the same page.
And hello to
Cool.
Tony, our new
Hello,
Hey,
Tony.
Tony, thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
And we've got Casper Paranormal Investigations.
Hi.
guys.
Hi, Casper.
Yep, there we go.
So many people saying that they have encounters all the time. Wow, it must be a full house, literally, with two mediums in the home. Wow. How do you cope, Joey? Do you just kind of lay in bed with your pillow over your head going, Keep them away.
Oh no! You know what? Just the opposite. Now Jolie's been living away from us for about a year. Just when she turned 20, she moved out and went to another situation that was great for her. But no, I have this insatiable curiosity, which I think is why we have our hands in so many things. I figure whether we come back or not, I don't know, but I want to try things and I like to pool data and all. But I think this kind of sums it up. When Jolie was 17, we were living on the Atlantic coast in North Carolina, very haunted town, very old town, one of the oldest towns, in America, and pirate heritage and seafaring and all this great stuff, Civil War. And Jolie starts telling us that there's this man who's in our house. And long story short, she and Tonya do some separate investigating. Well, he's a World War II veteran, and he's living in her bedroom. So they sort of make peace, and his name's William, and he kind of looks after her. He watches her when we go on investigation, so on and so forth. Then one day, she's upstairs in the shower, and we hear her say, "Knock it off, get out of my shower." And it's this 16, 17-year-old boy, goes. So I'm in the weird position of it as a dad of my daughter doesn't date living people, but she has a military veteran and this 16-year-old boy living in her bedroom.
Right.
So
Right.
it's been weird.
Boundaries.
Yes. Yep. And that's definitely something we taught her. And she's very good with her boundaries when spirit people come and visit her. A lot of times when she's trying to sleep or whatever, we would just hear her yell, like, "I'm trying to sleep, leave me alone." She's pretty good. No, she is at the same time, very compassionate and kind. But if they're intruding on her space, she will let them know. So she's great with boundaries.
She's so lucky to have grown up with people
Yes.
who are accepting of the other side.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was about 4 when we noticed that she was seeing spirit people. Now, for me, I know growing up, I had all these experiences. My dad's very much a cynic. If he can't see it.
Sorry, we're still here. Renata just touched something, and now we're
Okay.
off our camera. She does this. She has a lot of
Uh-oh.
Keep telling your story, I think.
So, yeah, I'll keep that. So Jolie was 4. She was seeing spirit people. Hello. We thought we'd keep talking so you didn't
That's
have
all right.
dead
Yes,
air.
you just run the show.
I'll
We've
sit here
done
on my
that.
hands.
We have done that. We're being interviewed by someone in America and they've dropped out. So we just kept talking and ran the show.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, keep talking.
Keep going, sorry.
So, no, I was just saying, I knew how important it was because my dad was always dismissing my experiences. And my mother, even though I'm sure she was also very psychic and had her own experiences, she didn't know what to do with it. So they would both always tell me, "No, it's your imagination. Just stop playing around." And it's really hard when you're growing up, as I'm sure you guys know, many of your guests probably know, when you're having these experiences and you're being told that your experience is not real. So I didn't want to put my daughter through that. So from the first, when she was saying, "There, I see soldiers," or "I hear drums," or "There's an old man sitting on our couch," she was like 4. I believed it. I absolutely believed what her experience was. So yeah, and that just really helped her to develop. She's an amazing medium. So it really helped her abilities come a lot stronger, I think.
That goes really well into the book that you've written, which we have.
Living the
coming up.
Intuitive Life.
Yes, Living the Intuitive Life. Could you
Yeah, I'm
talk a
just
little bit
gonna
about
pop
that,
that.
please?
Sure. So it's really my belief that I've never been a huge fan of the word psychic because it implies, thank you, it implies that certain people are special and they have these psychic abilities, but really we all have these abilities. We're all born with these abilities. It's really just I think a biomechanism that we all have for picking up subtle energies, and that's really all we're doing. Animals do it all the time. Anyone who has pets knows that their dog or their cat can tell if they're sick or they're sad. animals, especially cats, can pick up spirits when they're, moving through your house or in your house. People, report on this all the time, and humans have it as well. So that's really what my book is about. It's about how we all come into the world with these biosensing mechanisms, and we're just kind of conditioned through our society not to trust them. So it has exercises on how to cultivate those abilities to not only enrich your life, but your relationships as well.
Oh, terrific.
Brilliant.
We're going to grab some of those, I think. Absolutely. We'll have to get one that is signed by you, Tonya.
Oh, absolutely. I'd be happy to send you guys one.
Oh, please. We have a little bit of a library happening with all of our guests who are writers.
I love it.
How long did it take you to write it?
I'm trying to remember. I believe it was about a year. Oh, actually, no, it was 9 months. It's just a thing in my life. When I'm working on a project, it generally takes about 9 months to birth it.
That's really interesting.
That's crazy. Did you learn anything for yourself that came through that was sort of this new idea as you were writing the book? Did things consolidate for you?
Yes. A couple of things, really. The first thing, that book was really my coming out, so to speak. I never wanted to be called a psychic. I certainly at the time didn't really consider myself a medium. I was still getting to the place where I understood that we all had intuitive abilities. I felt very strong. I'd been using them for a long time, but I still wasn't comfortable with being called a psychic or a medium. Our publisher and our very good friend at the time, Rosemary Ellen Guiley, who actually encouraged me to write the book, said yes. She said, listen, once I was, coming up with like the final draft of the book, and I was like, yeah, I still don't know if I'm going to, call myself a psychic medium. And she was like, listen. And if you guys knew Rosemary, she was a straight shooter, and she didn't, she just called it like it was. And she said, nobody knows what an intuitive is. She said, you're a psychic medium, and that's what you're going to call yourself. And so it really helped me come to terms with, hey, you know what? I have to stop worrying what people think. I was worried what my family would think. I was worried what, certain, friends of mine or clients of mine might think, because I'm also a massage therapist. I'm also a Reiki master teacher, yoga teacher. So I was like, well, what are people going to think when I start, all of a sudden calling myself a psychic medium? But you know what? The response was amazing. People were like, oh my gosh, how did I never know this about you? And the other thing was, I had a wonderful mentor who read the book. He actually wrote the foreword. He's been a spiritual mentor and teacher for me. And he wrote the foreword for my book, but he wouldn't write the foreword until I redid the first draft. And he said, he read it and he said, it's a good book. He said, it's not a great book. He said, you're not in the book. Where are you in the book? Because I had written very technically. Mm-hmm. And he said, I think it can be a lot better. You need to go back and insert yourself in the book. And I really learned a lot doing that. I learned a lot about how imagination and intuition are really two fingers of the same hand. Because I really started playing with my imagination. Well, how do I put myself in this book? What are my day-to-day experiences that really go hand in hand with my intuition? And so I learned so much by doing that.
It sort of reminds me a little bit of the acting process as well, because Joey, I know you're an actor as well, and so am I. And Renata is now too, because I dragged her into it. So when they say to you, stop acting and just be, find that in yourself and just be. And it's so important. If you don't put yourself into it, it's not real.
Exactly. It was just a book about, here's some exercises, here's what I think, but it had nothing to do with my journey. And that I think that really changed it.
Yeah. Now, I remember in one of the messages we had going back and forth, you actually had, I think you said 2 of your cousins and Rosemary Ellen Guiley come over to your house, and what was it? You had some sort of portal or something? What was it?
Oh,
that story.
Yes. So Rosemary passed away 13, 14, 15 months now, which is just astonishing.
Huge loss to the community.
and 10 years as a friend, a mentor, ultimately our publisher.
Wow.
We miss her dearly, but it's complicated because she's with us a lot.
Yeah.
She's
I'm not
right over
surprised.
Tanya's head back there. She's always in the studio with us. But
Rosemary, thank you for letting them come on the show and helping us find each other. It's appreciated.
it's Rosemary, my aunt, who really was your first
My
spiritual
first
mentor.
mentor.
And my great grandmother. So we started our podcast at the end of January, and our producer at the time messaged me. Oh, we were guests on their show, and then they offered us their own slot. And she messaged me, and she said, like, a lot of people say to me, Joey, you're really psychic too. You have a lot of gifts, and I can sometimes see a partial apparition. My clairaudience is getting better over the past 3 years or so, but I don't seem, my wife and my daughter set the bar extremely, extremely high for this stuff. So she said it was very helpful. I said, I hear that and I have no idea what to do. Now I've studied shamanism. We had a sweat lodge. I do astral journeying, all this kind of stuff. I said, I'm really kind of at a loss how to cultivate this, right? And she said, go back into your ancestry. She said, my sense is that Tanya comes directly from the stars. She's a celestial being, but your ancestors learned these things and cultivated them. So I said, okay. So I started digging back, and it turns out that 3 of my great grandmothers one was called a mistress of the occult. Another one was known to have gifts. So
I like that name,
Mistress of the Occult.
Yeah,
Oh,
fantastic.
Great.
she's the one who's here.
Write that down, Renata. Write that down.
I like it.
You can have. I think my great grandma would love that. And then she showed up. We were doing our show when it can be a circus sometimes when we do our show because
we know. Welcome to our world.
Watch. And they say, oh, do you know that there's a woman with a burned face behind you? Or do you know that there's a little old lady in a black dress who's pointing to your heart and saying, you better take care of yourself? And so you checked in. And Tanya said, it's this older woman. And she described her. And I said, hold on a second. And I went into the digital family album and I said, is this her? And she said, yeah. And I said, that's my great grandma Nicoletti. And so she's been around. She's helping me. I have some respiratory and heart issues. She's been helping me. I'm feeling better because I guess it was getting a little bit to the red zone a little, what was going on with me. So great grandma stepped in. My aunt is here, who we lost 12 years ago to a brain aneurysm.
Oh boy, I'm more like 14.
14. Yeah,
ago.
we've lost a lot of people, but they're helping from the other side. So that was a long answer to a simple question, but they've been around and they helped us, close a portal in our home.
Wow.
About 6 weeks ago. Yeah, Tanya was, well, you tell with your clients.
So I've been, since the pandemic, gosh, I can't talk. Since the pandemic, I've been seeing clients virtually, obviously, and they would get really distracted if I was in the living room in particular. And they'd be like, what's that behind you? What's going on? And I would, they would take screenshots and you could see this black mass in the corner behind me and this weird funky stuff. And I was like, okay. And then sometimes my face would distort and I was like, this is not cool. So first of all, my clients are getting distracted. Secondly, whatever's coming through, I'm not sure I like it. So I did a meditation. And as Joey said, I connected with Rosemary. I connected with our aunt and his great grandmother. And they just kind of showed me. They showed me where the portal was. They showed me how it sort of originally opened. And gave me some tips for basically what to do to close it. What was really interesting about that was they had given me these very specific steps about closing the portal. You have to do this thorough cleaning. You have to move these things. You have to put this here, that there. Very specific stuff.
Put a mirror to face the corner for a week.
And so we did all this stuff, and it came time to sort of do the final steps. And in the interim of that, someone reached out to Joey through the internet. I guess he found you on Facebook.
Yeah, after our show one day.
Yeah.
And he claims that he is a walk-in and is bilocating between an astral starship connected to Ashtar Command.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also here on Earth because his wife incarnated to Earth thousands of years ago, and he was able to track her down. So they cohabitate here on Earth. So our policy is, until there's some reason to discount the stories that we're hearing, this is another learning opportunity. So he gives me this phrase, sort of a mantra, and he says, you can contact the star beings with this. So that night, you were probably with a client or something.
I know you're with a client.
Or maybe you were doing your messages from spirit, one of your gallery readings. So I go outside and I'm speaking this mantra and I'm seeing some interesting light streaks, but I'm going, I don't know, I'm just not gifted, blah, blah. So Tanya, I'm having another one of my mini crises. And Tanya comes in and I tell her, this guy reached out to me and he gave me this thing. And she said, well, let's work with that tonight because tomorrow we have to close the portal. And
so, I was really intrigued by the gentleman who had reached out to Joey anyway, because years ago, and this is going a little aside, but I think it kind of ties in. Years ago, I had a dream, and in the dream, it was one of those, you guys have probably had these kinds, so vivid, you just know that there's something very special about it. So vivid, it's like you're there. Yeah. And in the dream, and always I know too that there's something more to it than just a dream if I'm dreaming that I'm actually in the room that I'm in. And then it ends up being like a dream within a dream kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So in the dream, I'm sleeping in our bed. I get up and I walk over and look out. And this was 2010. I look out the bedroom window up into the night sky and I see this brilliant, so bright and brilliant, this constellation in the sky. And I didn't know what it was. And immediately I just start crying and I realize it's my home. And I go, it's my home. It's the Pleiades. So I say this in the dream.
I've got goosebumps.
Well, I woke up. Oh, and then I start flying around the room. The dream just got straight. And then it ended up being a dream within a dream. Well, the next morning I woke up and I was like, Pleiades, that sounds familiar. But I didn't really know, because I didn't know a lot about constellations or the night sky. Although I've always wanted to learn, I just hadn't. So I looked it up, and the first thing that came up was Barbara Marciniak's book, Bringers of the Dawn. And I realized I had that book, but it had been on my shelf. The aunt that we mentioned had given it to me years ago, but I had never read it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have this book. I can read it. And so anyway, long story short, I started meeting people who had this very similar Pleiadian connection. And I really started feeling like, okay, there's a connection for me with the Pleiadians. I don't know what it is, but it's there. So and I work with light beings in my Reiki work. These light beings show up all the time. I get messages through automatic writing. I have for many years now. So when he mentioned someone who's a walk-in, who's this light being, I was like, I totally get that. So I did another meditation that night using the mantra that Joey had been given. And during the meditation, these light beings came in and they had this technology, this device, and there was probably like 5 or 6 of them. And they had these like silver suits on, and they're just moving through our house. One of them was over in the corner using this technology, and it was creating this like energy spiral. It was kind of like closing up the thing. But another one was just sort of doing something in the middle of our living room, and others were upstairs. It was just fascinating.
Wow. Do you think they, when they appear to us in those sort of meditative states, they're appearing to us in a form that we can cope with, deal with, perceive?
Yes, absolutely.
I've always sort of thought about that. Yeah, and there's a few questions that are coming through. So you said that they told you how the portal opened. So how did the portal open? How did it happen?
Right,
Great
thank
question.
you. So we have a beautiful hawthorn tree on our property. And Tanya and I have this really interesting, beautiful connection with the fairy realm. We owned 3 acres. We were custodians. We never thought that we owned it. We were custodians of 3 acres where we built a beautiful house in West Virginia, which is old wooded coal mining kind of
Well, we
country
were meant
here
to
in the
be
United
in West
States.
Virginia this year. We were meant to
Oh,
be
nice.
there in early June, but look, we won't talk about that. It's too distressing.
No.
Anyway, sorry.
Okay,
keep going.
right. No, so we lived there for 7, almost 8 years, and had a tree with a fairy ring, and they left these white
Oh.
stones for me one winter morning. These 12 white stones. We would see the lights all the time. Then we had a Shawnee tribal chief come to the house, and right in the area of our living room where we would see these little people run around, he said, "Oh, that's where the little people run around," which was wonderful confirmation. So we have this hawthorn tree, and it's just gorgeous, and they leave gifts, branches that are, beautiful mathematical lengths, or they left me this branch that's exactly 6 feet high, and it branches this way, and each one of the branches is like 9 inches. It's just beautiful. I have it upstairs.
Wow.
And one day I'm standing outside and it's in full bloom, and this wind comes up, and it's like a snowstorm of hawthorn petals come right directly, like just blow all over me and past me. So we leave little gifts, marbles and coins and cream inside the nook of the tree. Well, the fairies have always resided there, and they would dance in a circle between where the corner of our house was eventually built, coming up on 100 years ago, and their tree. And they naturally opened this energy vortex, this energy.
Right. Okay. I
And
get
I
it.
think
Yep.
between writing our books, doing investigations, our house becoming more and more of a grand central station for ghosts and spirits, I think that portal just got juiced, and then we have colleagues come and this and that, and so it was very innocent. It wasn't like a dark portal. There weren't someday Satanists in our basement conjuring portal, nothing like that. Tanya and I are here to tell you that, folks, in our experience, the paranormal is like 99% wonderful, light, good.
Yes! Yes! You are our people!
Yes!
Thank you!
Yes!
We have made friends. I mean, in the 11 years since we saw the interdimensional being, right?
Sorry about yelling.
Spoke about little teaser. We have met so many wonderful close friends. We were mentored by Rosemary Ellen Guiley, arguably like an Elvis Presley of the paranormal world.
Yes.
An absolute superstar, and she was our friend and stayed at our house for prolonged periods of time and mentored our daughter. And so, yes, we encounter dark things, but in our books, in our books and our work, we're here to say, and it really keeps us off television. Like, we talk to these producers. I talked to this one producer in England. It's so tell us about your experience. And I tell them, and they're so hooked in. And they go, and what happened when you went home? Was your life turned upside down? And I said, no, we met all these great people, and now we're paranormal. And she's like, thank you so much. We'll be in touch. Click.
Yeah.
And they took our story and they appended it as the prologue of someone else's story. So 8 months later, we're watching television. And they're like, oh, these people walked into the shop and they talked to this man and they got this and then they did that. And I turned to Tanya and I said, son of a gun. Our story was so good in the first act that they just borrowed.
They just didn't like our third act.
They just grafted it onto these people's story and turned into this horror story of epic proportions.
Yeah, and this is why people are so fearful now in the the normals, I like to call them. They just take what they see on TV as real and terrifying, and it's just so not that. People keep saying, what's your most terrifying experience? And I go, well, I
don't have one.
They've never hurt me.
Yeah.
I've been scratched sometimes, but it wasn't a vicious attack.
No.
It might have been because I was sticking my bum out of the car at the time and said, please don't scratch me on the butt. And when I got home, there was a big scratch. To me, that's humour.
Yes. And they are very funny. I mean, I have had relationships with some spirit people that we've encountered, like at the web library that we investigated for 2 years, and their sense of humor is wonderful.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Now we have a question here for you. Oh, first off, let's just do this one. Joey, were you in Breaking Bad?
No, I was not, but thank you for asking. That would be a dream. I know I look particularly thuggish tonight. I get it, but yeah, no,
We
I
can start that rumor
Thank you,
for you, Joey. That's
Yeah,
fine.
that's fine.
I get that a lot. I look like everybody. So that's that could be good and bad. I had a mentor in college, and he was the spitting image of Dustin Hoffman.
Ooh.
Oh.
And I said, "You're a brilliant actor, and you look just like Dustin Hoffman. Why don't you get more work? Like, why are you teaching college?" And he goes, "If they want Dustin Hoffman, they get Dustin Hoffman." He was not happy to answer the question. So no, but if they ever bring it back, what a brilliant show.
Oh,
Yeah.
so clever.
Vince
So
Gilligan
clever.
is just, and a little aside, Vince finds violence absolutely, I say Vince like I know him. Vince finds violence absolutely aberrant, and that's why he wrote the show.
Yeah.
His processing of what makes good people do horrible things. What's the setup? And so, no, that would have been wonderful, though.
Yeah.
I have appeared on American TV. You can look out for me. There's a TV series called Deadly Women, and I've murdered people about 6 times on there. So check that out.
We
Wow.
will. We will.
My
look at
horrible American accent.
that. Well,
It's
I'm
wonderful.
sure it's way better than any Australian accent I could ever do.
Yeah, that's hard to do. All right, we've
It's
got
a
another
tough
question
one.
here. How do you avoid a situation of a portal in your home? And that's from our gorgeous Leslie. We've
Leslie.
adopted Leslie.
That's a
So
great
I'll
question.
take the easy part, and you take the hard part. Okay, not knowing, right?
I have
I'm
no
setting
idea
you
what
up
you're
here.
talking about.
So the easy part is be really careful what you do in your home.
Mhm.
So if there's an inference in the question of how do I avoid opening a portal, be careful of the tools that you use. Our new book that comes out next month, Roommates from Beyond: How to Live in a Haunted Home. Don't do investigations in your home. Now, we use our home as a laboratory, but not just, oh, it's Friday night and there's nothing on television, so let's fire up the spirit box. We won't do that. But because of what Tonya does and how much we do our work, these things get called in, and we had this portal and all. So, unless you really know what you're doing, watch spirit boxes, talking boards. You really got to know what you're doing to use a Ouija board or a talking board. They seem to dial low entities. Those low entities can open things up. What Tonya and I are really preaching during the pandemic is laugh. Keep your energy vibration high. It will keep you safe. It will keep the darkness out. But should a portal open in your home, or that's why I'm giving you the hard part.
Well, I would add to that too, a little bit of feng shui. Try to not have like mirrors or reflective surfaces
mirrors.
facing each other. Bathrooms are really active places a lot of times because you have a lot of mirrors or reflective surfaces. You have running water in there. To me, really though, it always boils down to intention, and you want your place to feel like a safe haven, what it really is. So just doing the things in your home that make it a happy, safe place, playing music that uplifts you a lot, just, to clear the energy in the home, keeping the energy nice. We tell people who are having a lot of activity in their home, now's not the time to be watching a lot of scary movies or paranormal shows.
Oh, yes.
Right?
We are
little
absolutely
sage,
on the same page. Absolutely.
A little incense, a little sage. There was 2 months ago when we had the portal, and the woman with the burned face was around, and we were having a little bit of issues. We were on a show one night late at night, and there was this person in the chat room. Now, nobody acknowledged him, but he was typing in all caps, and it kept coming up. And he was talking about demons and using these very like Anunnakian, Aramaic, kind of Sumantrian kind of sounding, lot of consonants, you know what I mean? And we had a really bad experience with a dark entity in our home. I don't know if he sent it or if it was The
Wow.
Conjuring with the words. It was
Yeah.
we were very frightened that night.
Yeah, like you,
But-
and we don't get frightened that much. Very rarely.
No, but we
And
were there with
were
crystals
frightened
and
that night.
stones
I
and
mean, it
burning
was
everything
very
we had.
unsettling.
Wow.
But there was a movie on Amazon that we really wanted to watch, and we've yet to watch
Never
it.
watched it.
We just said this frequency is not a frequency that we want to juice by watching this movie in our home. So sometimes you have to be a disciplinarian
Yes.
if things are edgy. So
Yeah.
so Leslie, good luck with
Yes, thank you, Leslie.
No, great. Thank you so very, very much. I'm so glad that you have pointed all of those things out, because we very much say exactly the same thing. And I think a lot of people think that they can just pass these things over, and someone will come in and stand in the middle of their home and wave a magic wand and say, it's all gone. But they don't understand that there is a tidy up and a continuation
And work they have to
consciously
do.
that they have to do.
Exactly.
And continue to do.
Because many people feel special sometimes when they have something going on in their home, and the thought of removing it, they don't actually want that, because they like being special. They say they want it removed, but they're not going to do the work because they're special.
Yep.
right.
We have experienced that.
I see one of your guests, Margaret, there is asking, do we see 11:11 all the time? Well, only at 11:11, but no, it's always 11:11 here at our home. Which is really like a great number for angels and pillars, and so we do notice that phenomenon.
I think of 11:11 as like a gateway. I feel like when you're seeing 11:11, particularly, I feel like Archangel Michael is what I tune into when I see that and that frequency, and it's just like a gateway where he or other light beings or angels are coming in and saying, "Hey, I'm here with you."
Tonya, I have a question for you, because this actually came up in the last 12 hours. We had a lovely lady contact us who has a young daughter experiencing things happening at home where entities are talking to her. Now, she's quite young. So what would your advice be to any mum or dad who has young children who are being contacted by these entities at home, and it's quite frightening for them?
That is such a great question. I'm so glad you asked, because this is something that's near and dear to Joey and to our hearts. We're going to write a book. It's going to be probably our next book together. And it's for parents. Exactly, how do you help your kids when they're having these experiences? One of the things I would say is, first of all, believe your child's experiences so that they can trust that what they're experiencing is legitimate. It's really their experience. If you don't know how to do this, I would recommend looking for someone who can help your child learn to ask for protection from either angels or spirit guides, depending on probably the entities that she's tuning into are probably just regular spirit people, just people without bodies. But if there's something dark coming through, you want to teach her how to protect herself. You want to teach her to set boundaries. That's something very easy to do, and just say, hey, leave me alone right now. I'm trying to go to sleep, or I'm not comfortable talking to you right now. Please go away. Again, like we talked about earlier, it's really important. Just because they're spirits doesn't mean that you don't have the same boundaries that you would have in any healthy interaction. So, and maybe help her document. If it were my child, I would want to document these experiences to help her, so that as she grows and gets older, she can go, okay, well, this type of thing happens, because of this or whatever, so that she can sort of like start to develop her own personal guidebook for how it works for her, because it's different for everyone. To draw pictures. Yeah. Children like to draw, sometimes being able to draw what she can see.
And that helps us get data.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Jolie would draw what she was seeing.
Would draw.
And that would help us.
Help her a lot. I know for me as a child, I always felt really comfortable using prayers to just kind of help me feel, more safe and protected. My daughter, on the other hand, she just, that wasn't her. She would find her own way, what felt right for her. As either a talisman or, energy protection or whatever. So I hope that helps. Those are just some suggestions.
So yeah. Yeah, it's nice hearing it from somebody else too. So great information there. I hope that those that are listening today take that on board, and we will also pass that on to our beautiful lady who's contacted us as well. Yeah.
Now, tell us about the hallway, because we have this funny thing when we go investigating. We do live feeds, and we'll set REM pods up down the hallway. We'll go live, and we'll just all sit there and watch it
For a long
and we
time.
get hundreds and hundreds of people who come on and just watch the hallway with us. But you've got an exciting hallway, I do believe.
We really did. So that's our book, Watch Out for the Hallway, our 2-year investigation of the most haunted library in North Carolina. And that subtitle was Rosemary's. You know, she said, I think we should say, because we said our 2-year investigation of a haunted library. And she said, let's call it the most haunted library. And I said, well, I don't know. I said, is it? And she said, yeah, odds are pretty good after reading this book that it is. And then we were on Richard Syrett's show, and he said, I'd say it's probably the most haunted library in America. So there you go. So it was an architectural feature on the 2nd floor. And this library, the bottom floor and the upstairs floor were like Jekyll and Hyde. This was a split personality building. And it had been from its inception. But a long hallway, very narrow. On one end, you could get into 1, 2, 3 rooms. And that was the north hallway. That was actually the dangerous hallway that gave the book its name, Watch Out for the Hallway. We had a dear friend who was a doctor at the library who had passed. He was very fond of Tonya, one of the first spirits that we met there, always dispensing advice to the guests in a very prescient, clairvoyant way.
And fun way.
And one night I said, Doc, you know, it's been kind of crazy upstairs. You got any advice for us tonight before the investigation starts? And he said, watch out for the hallway. So that was that. So that was the north end. The south end, there were no ingresses or egresses, no way to get in or out. It was sealed. And that was the portal. We called it the portal hallway. And then 3 or 4 different times we heard voices over the course of 2 years going, it's a portal. You know, so people would say, well, how do you know that hallway was a portal? Well, the spirits told us it's a portal. And sometimes it would change shape and dimension. And sometimes you would feel like you were in a film where you were on a Dutch angle and you were sideways and you felt like you were getting pushed towards one wall. The spirit box and the EMF meter, the electromagnetic frequency meter, were most active at the very, very top and the very, very bottom. Plus, on the spirit box and otherwise, you would see or hear numerous spirits. And sometimes, one night, we were in our plane. There was the spirit plane, and then there was this sort of intermediary plane where the spirits and ghosts in that plane seemed unaware of the other 2 planes. So that hallway was wild.
It was wild. I called it like Grand Central Station for ghosts, but it reminded me of the scene in the first movie Poltergeist. Toward the end of the movie, when all the ghosts or the spirit people are descending down the staircase.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it was like. It was just all these people kind of walking from the south end of the hallway, making their way. And some of them would stay. Most of them were transient. And they would just sort of pass through there. But what we would do, which was very cool, is we would have the cell phone camera. And we would bring it up, and the little facial recognition squares would pop up. And they would move. There were no people there for the squares to come up for, but there would be dozens of them. And you could see them moving as the people were moving down the hallway. So we were able to capture several screenshots of that.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And yeah, and I think that just had to do with, like we were talking about earlier, the feng shui of the building, the fact that there were no egresses. The energy somehow was able to sort of cluster or whatever at that end. And then they would make their way from that end to the other end, which at the other end, no, I'm getting turned around. The end that they were coming from was the water, where the water and the Bass Hotel were.
Right, so just beyond the window on the south end, on the portal end, was
the courtyard.
Well, there was a former hospital that was then a nursing home. The hospital was very active during World War II because German U-boats would attack oil tankers. So horrific injuries. The library itself was a triage building. So we encountered 3 or 4 young men go badly burned, in pain, strapped to gurneys, confused. You crossed several of them over with help sometimes, right?
And people,
help always seemed to be there at the right time.
People would often report your skin would just get really hot, like you were just, in a fire, and it would just get, and even though it was North Carolina and on the second floor of a building, but that didn't account for the intensity of the heat that we were
and correlation with the spirit. And just beyond that was the inlet. So you have this salt water. Next to the building was a radio tower. And then as we were researching the book, we went to places like MUFON and Newfork, and some of our most active nights at the library, looking back at these reports months later, people were reporting UFOs over the water a half a mile away. So it was just the perfect storm.
It really was.
And a laboratory for us, and we made mistakes and learned a lot, and it was really something. It was really something. 150 hours of like graduate school in the paranormal field work.
Wow.
We had 575 guest investigators come through that building with us.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we would do open investigations where people would come and come through the building with us. And we were, I had a field journal that I just took copious notes. And we would do a blog on Facebook and say, oh, here's what happened last week. And, this and that. And Rosemary said, I think there's a book here. And I said, I think so too. And so we kind of take people virtually room by room through the tour with the overlaps and the investigation. But we encountered a weird interdimensional one night. These skeletal wraithy things that would crawl along the ceiling.
Spectral men in black.
Wow.
That whole Men in Black.
They're real.
They are. They are real.
And some of them aren't flesh and blood. They're these spectral, slightly robotic, very scary, kind of violent. Yeah.
Do you think Rosemary will be channeling a book through either of you over the next year? Because she was so prolific in writing that I am sure she's...
You've picked up on it.
Because I am sure that she's kind of going, no,
Can I just say
can't stop.
She's good.
This can't stop. I've got to keep going here.
Go ahead, babe.
So I've gotten some amazing communications through automatic writing from Rosemary since she passed. And one of the more recent ones, she did say, you and I are going to write a book together. And I'm not sure yet what it is. Now, right before she passed, Rosemary...
Hold on, let me get a message here.
Yeah, if you find out, let me know.
Okay, I will.
I'm just kind of waiting. I'm sure it's a matter of timing. I think right now with the pandemic, I see your guest is asking if we have any investigations online, and we haven't been anywhere to investigate in the last 6 months, but we hope to as soon as that changes. So I think
they may have the older ones, if you've got anything online that they can watch.
We don't.
We never did, and it was a public thing, but it was also a private thing. So the people who hired us and were sort of paying our bills, somebody came and filmed an entire 2-hour investigation and then put it up on YouTube, and it was like a big deal, and they had to be asked to take it down. It was a working library too.
Yes.
We did film one, but unfortunately the power in the building was out. It was unexpected, and the power in the building was out that night, and the video quality was so poor because we didn't bring the right kind of lighting because we didn't expect the power to be out in the building. So we don't have any.
The books are available, so if you can't actually go online to see anything, and this is an issue because It is really important to keep confidentiality for your clients.
Mm-hmm.
But books are available, so go over to Amazon and buy the books and read those.
Yeah. The book is essentially just like going through an investigation. It's just all of the information we gathered over those 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I forgot what we were talking about. We're in the middle of something and we've interrupted now.
Oh no, yeah, no. I think we kind of finished up with the hallway, so it was just.
Okay. Now I noticed in your notes too that you also mentioned that you have dealt with possession and attempted possession.
Oh please, let's talk about this. Let's talk about this.
Okay, so the possession was very complicated. It was a woman in her late 40s, and through clues and through spirit guides and all, she'd had a very difficult life. It seemed that she was bright and she was beautiful, and it seemed whatever she tried didn't work out. Relationships, jobs, aspirations, nothing. And so through investigation and, she kind of came to Tonya needing mentorship and guidance. She had this Aztec demon from lifetimes ago, this thing called the Titsamimi. And we had a very interesting conversation with Tony about it one night. I don't know if Tony's still with us. We were having lunch. We were speaking at the museum there, the Buckland Museum that she runs. And she was seeing it as this skeletal thing, but I was seeing it as it had become so engorged over lifetimes that it was this big black mass and had these claws that were hooked into her solar plexus, and into her sacrum. And we called on a lot of helpers, living, dead, otherwise. What was the plant hun that died that we wound
Dahlia.
A Dahlia, which we found out. Oh, she's still here. Yeah.
Dahlias have significance in ancient, and we didn't know this at the time, in ancient Aztec culture as protective plants. And so this dahlia it was growing beautifully, and then all of a sudden it had this weird infestation of some bizarre kind of insect or something.
Very
it
ugly
started
looking.
dying, and as the dahlia died off, the attachment to the woman went away.
Yeah, it began to shrink and become less entrenched. She's doing well now, but the attempted possession was a friend who was also a colleague who was having an uptick of activity in her home. And she said, can you come spend the weekend with me and figure out maybe what's going on? And so that was wild, right? You want to talk? I talked quite.
He's throwing that one to you.
I'm throwing
So she had a little bit of wine, not a lot, but just a little, and she was getting a little agitated, not like herself at all, saying things that just were not like her.
We went out on the front porch and cars were going by, and it was kind of loud and busy for late at night or whatever, but she got very upset.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, I would just want to take a cinder block and throw it through a windshield of one of these passing cars. That'll show them. And Tonya and I were like, this is not our friend. This is odd. So we wanted to kind of wind down and say, you know what? Okay, everybody's had a couple glasses of wine. It's kind of late. We'll get a good night's sleep, and tomorrow let's take out the equipment and try to make communication, figure out what's going on in your home. And she had these dowsing rods. And she says, I think I'm going to get the dowsing rods. And we said, look, let's call her, I don't know, Pam. We said, Pam, you've been drinking. Obviously, things are active in your home already. Like, you could sense it. The home was active. Don't get out the dowsing rods. This is like putting up a radio antenna for bad things.
Hello, I'm here.
Yeah. So she says, okay, I'm gonna go up to bed. And so I had a little bit of work to do. We had been on the road for the day and all day. And so I sit down at the computer and I catch something in the corner of my eye. I turn around and Tonya had gone to bed and she's standing there with her dowsing rods, Pam. And I said, Pam, really, we need to put these things away. Well, long story short, she's sleeping on the couch. She gives us her bedroom, and I'm working, and I hear this laugh. just this really chilling laugh. And I'm like, oh, Pam's pissed at me, and she's starting to, she's going to break my chops because, we wouldn't let her play with the dowsing rod. This is not fun. Like, I'd rather be somewhere else. And so I kind of look over, and there's a little lamp on by the couch, and her hair's in her face, like, like the ring or something like that. And I find myself saying to my guides, thank you. I'm really glad that I can't see her eyes. So it's this witch cackle that you heard it. It woke you up, and then you came down. But it's like this witch cackle.
That's
but then we hear
laugh. That she just laughs like that all the time.
Yeah, we hear Pam, and she's saying, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I feel no evil." And her breath is getting rapid, and then it's the witch laugh again. And we, pulled out the sage and the tobacco and the rosemary and all the tools that we have, and we're saying prayers, and we're sitting there, and luckily, whatever it was did not get root in that woman. But it was, I mean, at one point, her eyes changed color.
Yeah.
I can only tell you that her eyes changed
And she did
color.
say she could feel that when she started praying, she could feel something moving into her body, and that she was trying to push it out. So that was the only thing ever that, you know what I mean? That intense, that in your face, kind of weird and bizarre that we've ever.
But chilling and
experienced.
dealing with something that was not nice, may have been formerly human.
Yeah.
We're really careful. The word demon is way overused.
Oh,
Yes.
It's way overused. I think it was. I think that she was vulnerable. So it goes back to what Leslie was talking about portals. We have to be really careful, especially when we do this as a job. We do this as a vocation, as an avocation. When we put our attention, right? What did Nietzsche say? You stare into the abyss stares back at you. There's monsters, and wherever Pam was at her life, where I will say this. These dark entities, whatever they are, right? Shadow people, Jinn, Rosemary did a lot of work on this stuff, and was very careful and very respectful of the fact that they were very powerful and they could do harm and damage. They are opportunists with a capital O. That's just that's what I would say to people.
Yeah.
So when you watch these TV shows and you're tempted to agitate something to boost the energy to get, they are opportunists, and they are, I won't say that they're more intelligent than we are, but they have a different kind of intelligence.
Yeah.
They're tricksters. And that's the really big thing. So I almost wish for anybody who's going to do this work to experience something like that. I used to sail when I was younger, when I was in my 20s, and I got caught in an unexpected squall with a veteran captain. And when he looked scared, that's when I got scared. And we didn't know if we were going to live or not, but I'm really glad that I had that experience being a sailor. You know what I mean? And it's the same kind of thing when you're hearing that and you're watching eyes change color, and someone that and she wasn't down in the basement with black candles and, messing about. It was just an opportunist trickster thing that almost got in. But luckily, we were at the right place.
There at the right time.
I think there's a book in that. Because at the moment, there are so many awful things happening, and there are so many people who wish badly upon others that they really create energies all on their own. And of course, these deeper, darker energies that are here in the world and have been here for a very long time, add that to their fuel capacity and go, yes, this is making me stronger. And as you said, you just need to be vulnerable. You need something to have happened to you to really take away all of your boundaries and all of your capabilities of being able to cope. And then that is when this energy steps in and takes you to a deeper, darker level. And it really is about every single one of us continuing to work on ourselves most deeply, and to strengthen ourselves so we don't become the person that is vulnerable to these these masses of energy. And it's really, really important for people to understand that. I think often people, again, because of Hollywood, think that it's going to be some sort of demonic dark entity with long teeth and claws that they see, and that's how they're going to be attacked. And as you guys have said, this is subtle. It comes in at a point in time when you don't even know it's happening, and then it overtakes your life slowly. And
Exactly.
people just will go on for years and years and years only saying, I don't know what's going on, rather than going, I know that there's something going on and I need to deal with it. And by that stage, it's too big, it's too hard, and they just throw their hands up in the air and go, well, I don't know what to do.
Right.
So that is important information.
There's a book. Write it.
There's a book. There's a
Oh
book
no!
there.
Well, that book is written, so it comes out. I finished the final edits today. As a matter of fact, we have to insert some photos, but it's called "Roommates from Beyond: How to Live in a Haunted
I
Home."
did have a picture of it, but it's all disappeared off my computer, and I can't.
It's okay. No,
That's
no
okay.
problem at all. People can go to the Outer Realms Facebook page, get a glimpse of the cover. We tried to add some humor to it. It looks like an old timey sort of handbook, but right. So there's 4 levels of a haunting: manifestation, infestation, oppression, possession. And what we really stress in the book is get on it in the manifestation phase. Get on it when the stuff first starts to happen. Because when you get to infestation, we kind of deal with infestation in a way. It's all day, every day, no matter where we are. You know, Tanya's a psychic battery, as Rosemary used to call you. It's just a spotlight. But because when you get to oppression, it's when you're losing sleep, when you're no longer at your best, when people are yelling at each other. We've experienced that. We lived in a very haunted house where all the adults in the house started going at each other. Little things became big things. And this was before we had these tools. So in a way, it's nice that we've been on the other side. We've been passengers, right? It's not like we were born, knowing how to deal with this stuff. And in that house, it got bad. Sometimes it was like Amityville, where people were really angry and smashing things, and the kids were having bad dreams. And our son saw this image of a man choking a woman on a television set that was turned off. We're going to be doing an episode of our show in the next couple of weeks, talking about that particular house. But yeah, get it at the manifestation, because you can manage it better. And maybe, you were saying some people, kind of want them there. Make it a conscious decision. We like a lot of the spirits and ghosts that come around. They don't eat much.
I have a room in my house that is welcoming to the spirit world, and that's just where we do the podcast and vodcasts, and I run Oz Paratech and everything, and I welcome them here, and I just ask what I call my gatekeepers of my house to keep out the negative crap, and I don't mind who else comes in to have a chat.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's a wonderful way to go. We have a colleague, we mentioned in passing in the book, who she says, okay, between the hours of such and such.
Yeah.
You're welcome, but otherwise I'm running a business, I'm raising a family.
Yeah.
Boundaries are neat. John Keel in the 1980s, one of Rosemary's mentors, he wrote a letter to this family and he said, it may sound ridiculous, but just set boundaries with them. I know everyone will think we're crazy. And I said to Tanya, look how far we've come in the last 40 years, where that's what to do. Treat them like they're alive.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly. That's what we always say. Oh, you guys are so on the same page as well. Look, we're going to take one question. We've already gone over time. From Tony, what are your thoughts while doing investigations on crossing people over? Do you feel like you should leave them where they are or help them over?
That's a good question.
That's a great question, Tony. Yeah, I ask them, and sometimes they say, yes, I'm ready. I'll give a good example. In the web library, as Joey mentioned, right across the street was a nursing home. And there was a gentleman that I encountered sitting at the window one evening, and he seemed a little confused about where he was. I could tell that he had probably come just recently from the nursing home. And so I said, you seem lost. I'd be happy to help you cross over if you'd like. And he said, No, I know where I'm at. He said, my wife's over there in the nursing home and they're not taking very good care of her. And I'm waiting right here. I'm watching over her until
Oh.
she's ready to join me. So a lot of times people feel really sad about children. Oh my gosh, I'm heartbroken. Why this little child is trapped here? And our experience is they're playing, they're having fun, they're not trapped. And we have to remember that our experience of time is not their experience of time.
Yes.
So what is 100 years for us might be 10 minutes for them.
Yeah.
You know, so when they're ready, I just ask, would you like to cross over? Many times they're ready, and often they're not.
What a great answer. Just ask them.
That's
Yeah,
it.
just ask them. That's perfect.
Absolutely.
That's
Don't
simple.
assume that you have the right to push these entities or energies anywhere, because you don't.
Yeah.
No, free will.
Yeah. We
Thank-
are not any better just because we are of blood and bone. It is all the same
We're
thing.
probably worse, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
You certainly have a
can't
lot to
finish.
learn.
We're here
Yeah.
because
have
we're
to
learning,
finish.
right?
It's breaking my heart. We
I
could
know.
talk forever.
I think we'll have to do this
get
again.
you back.
Margaret,
We'd love
thank
to
you.
come back,
Look at
yes.
Margaret's message.
Oh, thank you, Margaret. Oh,
Thank you
we
so
can
much,
listen to you
and-
for hours as well.
Yeah, we're going on hiatus the next month. Well, we're going to be only audio only with an affiliate, but then we're coming back with our show, and we would love to have you
we would love to
on
have
our
you guys.
show.
Yeah.
Yes!
Oh, we'll have
So-
to check with our manager now.
Oh, it's okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's a. Shh, you didn't hear that.
No. Don't know a thing. Don't know a
I'll
thing.
email you. We'll see if we can work something out for the end of the year.
Oh, that'd be
That'd be
fabulous.
awesome.
Now, please stay there, Joey and Tonya, because I've got something to tell you, Tonya, as well. But we have to say goodbye to all of our listeners. If you enjoyed this show, and we know that you have because you've been just madly writing, please share, because these guys are freaking amazing and we want to share them all throughout Australia. So we're going to say goodbye.
We'll let Tonya
Bye.
and Joey go out of here. And we'll say goodbye to all the people who have been so interactive and
Thank you so
loving
much.
this.
Yeah, it's been fabulous. And if you want these guys back on, let us know. Drop a message and we will have them back on. These are our people, aren't they? They're fantastic. And we're going to grab some books too.
Right, the podcast
Yes.
is streaming across the bottom there into the outer realm, so make sure you write that down, jot it down, or watch this again and you can write down all the notes.
Absolutely.
Lots of thank yous coming through. So guys, thank you for supporting us. Make sure you've liked our page and are following us, and don't forget to like the Anne and Renata page too. See you on the
See you
dark
soon.
side. Bye.